My First and Last Time in Leigh Woods. Posted by Prod by Unhinged. My name is Luke, and I am now 20 years old. This story happened to me when I was 17. This experience still gives me chills to this day. In May 2017, I found myself going out a lot more on my mountain bike. I was getting bored of cruising around the streets, so I wanted to go for a trail or woodland bike ride. I've never been to Leigh Woods before then. Personally, I don't think I'll be going alone again. After some research into a few different areas, Leigh Woods seemed to be my best bet. Living only a couple miles away, it was a nice bike ride. On arriving, it looked very peaceful, and I was almost in a dreamlike state by my first look of the place. For a woodland area in England, let alone Bristol, it was amazing. On going into the woods, I remembered seeing different colors at the start of each trail, signifying difficulty for bikers and length for walkers. Don't take my word on that bit, I still have no clue what they mean. So I decided to go down a colored, I can't remember very well, I think it was blue, trail, to see how it was there. Finding it exciting, I decided to go down the harder trail, and now here's where it starts to get weird. I began having this weird sort of vision looking around as if I'm being swallowed by the woodland. Everything felt like it was getting bigger and further away. I brushed it off, but it turns out I actually lost track of time. I got lost on the trail. Now, bear in mind, I'm very observant and aware of my surroundings before this trail. I then came to a strange opening. I could go left in the rough direction of the way out, or right deeper into the woods. Me, being me, I decided to go deeper into the woods. I came to a weird little trail that just had dodgy written all over it, metaphorically speaking. I went against my gut feeling of turning back and went down there. I came to a point of which the trail continued, but it was getting dangerous. The trail being too bumpy for me to even walk down. I then turned back. But for a few minutes before turning back, I don't know why, but I just stood still staring down the trail. I felt like I was being watched from all angles, even though it would be near impossible to have that many eyes surrounding me in that area. I got nervous and began walking back up the hill, as I was too tired to ride at this point. Keep in mind, my bike tires are completely solid. No punctures, slow punctures, or even anything wrong at all. I wish I still had pictures of the bike. Upon getting back to the spot where I originally went to the trail, that weird loss of time thing happened. It felt as if the whole path had stretched by half a mile, as if the woodland was moving. I began walking up the path, feeling that same eerie sensation of being watched, as I did beforehand. This time it felt a bit more sinister. It felt as if something was about to happen. And bearing in mind, I hadn't seen a single person at this point in time since I went down that first trail. I'll explain the scenery before continuing. It's a long path, a slight steep hill to my left, a very narrow river to my right, maybe 4 feet deep and maybe 4 feet wide. Bushes are on the other side of the river, with the odd tree every now and then. Upon getting about a quarter of the mile up the slowly inclining path, I hear a woman crying behind a tree up ahead. I start slowing down my walking pace to try and get a good look behind the tree, but the whole time I'm thinking to myself, why would someone jump across to cry behind a tree? So I edge closer to the river to look behind to see if the person is okay. Also, because many people go to Leigh Woods to commit suicide. So I was hoping to maybe help this person, but you guessed it. There is no one there, and the crying stopped. A bit weirded out, I just slowly turn away and start walking again, a bit quicker, as I was unnerved at the time. I've had paranormal experiences before, but not usually in a place like the woods, usually in a house or some sort of building. So this was new to me. I had this sudden shiver as I was walking, and maybe a minute or so later, only a couple meters away from where I heard the crying, it started again. But this time, it was right opposite me across the river. Well, I didn't bother looking. I started to go into a bit of a jog, and as I got faster, I heard the bushes rustling, as if they or it was following me. Upon hearing this, I sped up, and the crying became more and more hysterical. Now bear in mind, My bike was fine before this moment in time. I've thought to myself, fuck this, I'm gone. I've went to hop on my bike with the adrenaline that was rushing through me, and I came to almost a sudden stop. My back tire on my bike had become completely flat, so I had no other choice but to sprint with my bike and pray for the best that I didn't trip up or end up having to throw it to run faster. With the crying person still close to me and keeping up, I'm running faster and faster, praying I just get off this path that I was on. I had that feeling of wanting to cry because I couldn't actually do anything to help the situation or get out of it any faster. And after what felt like an hour, but in reality was probably only 5 or 10 minutes, I could see the car park. The crying had stopped following me and getting closer, and started moving back down to where I first heard it. I sprinted out into the car park. I must have been as white as a sheet of paper and hysterical with my breathing and wheezing as multiple people in the car park turned to look at me like I was crazy. I seen the exit sign go out of the car park and ran towards it. Whilst doing so, I noticed my bike to be moving a lot smoother on approaching the car park exit. I couldn't believe that my bike tire had suddenly regained all of its air. It was solid again, as it was before the unnerving crying person shenanigans. I jumped on my bike and got away from Leigh Woods as fast as I could and have never gone back since. As every person I tell this story to becomes reluctant to go there with me or any extra people. End of actual story. Keep reading for a little extra information. The thing that makes this scary is I have Irish heritage. In Irish folklore, there's a demon woman called the Banshee. She's seen in woodlands next to rivers or lakes, washing blood off of clothes. It is said that if you see her washing blood off of clothes, the person who owns those clothes will die. Alternatively, if you hear her crying, it means death. I can't remember the meanings exactly of the deaths, but it means either you or a loved one will die. Since 2017, I have lost my auntie, 2 of my best friends, and a dog. Leigh Woods is no joke. There are many stories that have come out of Leigh Woods too. You can read online about them. Search up Leigh Woods Bristol haunting. It is rated 87th most haunted place in the UK according to Higgy Pop. It's a popular spot in Bristol for suicides, or it was at least. Even the ghost of Isbard Kingdom Bruno has been spotted there, looking over the suspension bridge in which he designed. Church is haunted. Pastor thinks we're crazy. Posted by Winter_Forge. Years ago for a church event I was forced into going to, we all had a terrifying experience. The setup was boys slept anywhere they wanted downstairs and girls were free to sleep wherever upstairs. Except some rooms were blocked off because the church was being rejuvenated. Anyway, it didn't matter too much as we were a small group. Night rolls around, and us girls migrated into the nursery, and most of the guys just crashed in the small indoor gym or basketball court. Only one guy couldn't sleep. Above the basketball court are windows to another room that was locked off, and one of the guys kept seeing flashing lights and the silhouettes of people looking down on him. He didn't stay in the gym long. Around the same time, I and the other girls were playing apples to apples in the nursery. The door was closed, and next to it was a one-way window. Inside was like a mirror. It was so kids didn't see their parents coming to check on them and fuss when I started hearing banging and scratching on the door. I freaked and looked up to see 2 grinning faces staring back at all of us. Remember, we're on the mirror side. So one of us bolted towards the door and we hear stomping down the hall, but no one was there. The pastor came up screaming at us and saying we were all just imagining it. But we know what we saw and heard, and all of us refused to go back. When I was 6, I ended up cuddling with a ghost. Posted by Crevetka. My father used to come home late, around 12 a.m. from company hangouts or some friends. I would always come into his bedroom and lay next to him when he was asleep. Sometimes we would watch movies together. P.S. My mom worked overseas, so the only people that took care of me was my father and full-time nanny. Long story short, I wake up around the same time as always, 12 to 2 a.m., and head over to my father's bedroom. My nanny was asleep, but she was a light sleeper. Anyway, I would sleep with her in the living room because I was afraid to sleep alone. I walk in and see a figure that looks like my father under the bed sheets. I lay on the bed and hug it. It breathes up and down and takes my hand and puts it around itself. I wake up the next morning. The bed was made up and my nanny walks in and says excitedly, "You slept alone." Later during the day, my dad comes back. He was apparently at a friend's house, blackout drunk. What was hugging me that night? Edit. Holy shit. Now that I'm older, perhaps it was an intruder. Our neighbor did get robbed that year.
Got the mojo deals, we been tripping like the 80s. Pulling out the coupe at the lot.